How is Syracuse basketball going to do next season against its toughest non-conference opponents?
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day, and we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on this week's Poll Friday, I asked you guys the question, what is your record prediction in Syracuse basketball's toughest non-conference games for next season? Those being at Tennessee in the ACC SEC Challenge, Texas and/or Texas Tech in the Legends Classic, Georgetown at home, they still suck, and Maryland, which is a neutral site game. I gave you guys four options, 0-4 or 1-3. Then it was 2-2, 3-1, and 4-0. So those were the four choices. I combined 0-4 and 1-3 together. There were 241 total votes, and the winner with about 60% of the votes was 2-2. So you guys think that they will get 2 wins against their toughest non-conference opponents next season. In second place was 3-1. In third place was 0-4/1-3. And in last was 4-0. And I actually agree with you guys on the exact order. I think it's most likely that Syracuse goes 2-2. I could see 3-1. I could see 1-3. I don't think they're going to go 0-4. I think it's close between 3-1 and 1-3. 4-0, probably a stretch, even though I think we'd all take it. We'd all be very happy if Syracuse were to go 4-0. I think we can all agree that the toughest game for Syracuse in those 4 to 5 that I mentioned, and by the way, it could be 5 depending on how the Legends Classic bracket shapes out. But I think we can all agree that at Tennessee is the toughest one. They are a top 15 projected team, and I know they lost some pieces. They lost Jonas Adu, their center. They obviously lost All-American Dalton Knecht. He's in the NBA draft. He's probably going to be a top 10 pick in that draft. But they also added some top transfers, mainly being Chaz Lanier, who is a top 10 overall player in this year's class. And if you're Syracuse, obviously you're going to play to win. You want to win the game. I'm rooting for them to win. We're all rooting for them to win. But if they can keep it to a respectable margin at Tennessee, if they can only lose by 7 points, that's going to work pretty well for them. It's not going to be the end of the world if they lose that game by a respectable margin. Just the key is hold your own and don't get annihilated in it. It can't be a situation like last year where they did keep it close and they had a lead at one point, like a big lead in the first half, but they ended up losing by 17. That's not going to cut it. So hopefully you can keep that game within double digits. I would say the easiest game on the schedule in terms of the ones that I mentioned at Tennessee, Maryland neutral site, Texas Tech. The easiest one is Georgetown at home. This is because it is the only true home game. And I know that Georgetown has a top 30 commit class coming in, and they got Malik Mack. Obviously, Syracuse fans, we wanted him. 2 top 100 freshman recruits. But again, it's the only true home game of the ones that I mentioned. That's one of those you should win. You should hold serve on your home floor against a team that might be similar to you next season. I think Georgetown is going to be one of the improved teams in the Big East. That's a game where Syracuse, in a bit of a toss-up on their home floor, they got to take it. So the toughest one is at Tennessee. The easiest one is Georgetown at home. I agree with you guys that I think they will at least eke out 2 wins from that stretch. Now, coming up, why it's important that Syracuse gets at least 2 wins in that stretch. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports just aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. And hey, if you're itching for football season like I am, guess what? FanDuel has released the odds for Syracuse's first game of the season against Ohio. The Orange are 15.5-point favorites to get the W. You think the Orange can cover? Well, bet it right now on FanDuel. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Welcome back, everyone, into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and on this week's Poll Friday, I asked you guys the question, how many wins for Syracuse basketball in their toughest non-conference games this season? Those being at Tennessee, Maryland, Texas, and/or Texas Tech, and Georgetown, and we agreed that 2-2 is probably what is going to happen for Syracuse basketball next season, and I think we'd all take 2-2 from that stretch. It could be 2-3 or even 3-2 because Texas and Texas Tech, depending on how the Legends Classic bracket shapes out, they could end up playing both of them, but I'm going to assume that it would only be 4 games. So I think 2-2 is what they'll do. This is why it's important. I'm going to talk about the swing games here for a second. Texas and Texas Tech and Maryland are the swing games. Those are 3 teams that are borderline top 25 in a neutral site. I believe how Syracuse does in those games can make or break their tournament hopes for next season. And here is why I think this. Did you know that Clemson last season went 11-9 in ACC play? Just like Syracuse. They both went 11-9 in ACC play. Here's another kicker for you. Did you know that Clemson went 21-10 in the regular season? Syracuse went 20-11. Did you know that? Now, Clemson was a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament. And Syracuse, of course, was left out of the NCAA tournament. Now, why is that? They had identical ACC records, basically the same regular season record. Why? Why is one team a 6th seed and the other out of the tournament? How can that possibly be? Well, here's the answer. Non-conference. And Syracuse did well in the non-conference last year. But not like Clemson. Clemson beat teams such as Alabama, on the road, by the way. They beat TCU, and they beat South Carolina. And they did it early in the season. Clemson was a lock after winning those games to make the tournament. As long as they didn't completely falter in ACC play, they were a lock after that. So how Syracuse does in the swing games, like a Texas and Texas Tech and Maryland, could easily determine if the Orange make the tournament or not. If they do well in those ones, they can basically secure themselves in the tournament in December. It can be wrapped up by then that they're going to be in. But if they don't, and with the fact that the ACC doesn't get the same respect as it used to, they might have to do really, really well in the conference just to get themselves into tournament conversation. Could be a similar deal to last year. So they have opportunities. You can win at Tennessee. I mean, even though I don't think they will, there's nothing that says they can't do it. Like, there's nothing in the rule book that says they're not allowed to win a ranked game on the road. They should be able to beat Georgetown at home. So how you do in the swing games is critical for making the tournament next season. So that is it for this week's Poll Friday. How many wins for Syracuse in their toughest non-conference games. We all agree, or we most part agree, that 2 is probably what they're going to end up. Hopefully, they get at least 3 wins in that stretch and just basically secure themselves a bid in the tournament before ACC play. That's it for this week's Poll Friday. A reminder, every Monday, you can go and vote on Twitter and YouTube. The poll usually lasts for a few days before it closes. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you liked this video, click that like button. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications so you know right away when I'm dropping the next podcast. And everyone, have a great rest of your evening.